Weight do you put on gut feel in your leadership? I'm Suzanne Rath, and you're listening to Endures for your daily dose of endurance, leadership, and life lessons. So, I was thinking about gut feel today in my business and really trying to differentiate between, is this gut feeling just a trauma response to previous patterns that have maybe happened with other people? Is it a fear thing, or is it a real misalignment with our vision and our values? And sometimes as leaders, as owners, or in our lives, we need to learn how or when to listen to our gut feel. And I compare this to training. So lots of people train, them on all the metrics, all the data, and I really like data. I like data on my recovery. I look at things like heart rate variability. I look at my sleep scores. I look at the impact of different things on my recovery. This is something I actually work with clients on, how to look at what is actually impacting your energy, your recovery, your performance. But I also think that we can become a little bit too data driven or a bit too data obsessive in some cases, and it can almost cause a waste of time or just analysis paralysis. So one example is at training. Sometimes people like to train by their heart rate zone, and so they become obsessed about the heart rate zone that they're in. But if you've had a busy day in work, if it's particularly hot or humid, and we live in the tropics, so that happens a lot, if you've had a big meal, if you've had a lot of other life stressors, that will all affect your heart rate to the extent where you actually, with your training, kind of might need to blow off a little bit of steam. You might have the capacity to push yourself, but if you're obsessively sitting in this heart rate zone because you're going solely by the data and not just by the feel, then, are you doing yourself a disservice? Similar thing happened to me in the other direction when I had COVID, and actually for quite a few weeks after, my heart rate was running at this really insane thing, right? It was spiking really crazily. It was up and down where it shouldn't be. And I noticed it one day when I was running back from a park run, like jogging from a park run to the car, and my heart rate was through the roof. So that was an example in the other direction of maybe the data not being quite normal and me not having the feeling, because I actually felt okay. But back to the idea of gut feel and data and how these two things come in together. So yes, we as human beings, we make decisions emotionally first, right? We all have confirmation biases, even if we don't think that we do. And so it's important that we're aware of that. It's important that we go and get the data to support us, but also that we look at data in the opposite direction, right? So that we look at, what's going well. If it's a person that we're performance managing, or someone on our team that we're maybe just not sure about, or if it's a supplier, for example, or entering, a new contract with somebody, that we look at all of the evidence, I guess, for and against. But it is really important to actually listen to what we feel, because if we don't pay attention to that gut feeling that's warning us maybe that something is off, the questions that we can ask ourselves are things like, why does it feel off? What is it specific? What feels like a recurring pattern? How do I get the data around that to show if that's actually a real problem or it isn't? What's the evidence? And that comes into the data. What's the evidence that supports it? Is this entirely, I've woken up and I've had a bad night's sleep and, I'm convinced that everything is the source of doom? Or is there actually a significant body of evidence to support this? But also, what would happen if I kept ignoring this signal? Am I reacting from fear or discomfort? Because maybe that's not necessarily just your gut feel. And does this thing align with our vision and our long-term values? Because some of the things that your gut can start telling you is the data might be incomplete, but it's just enough to push you over the edge in terms of a decision, because leaders and owners have to make decisions. That's just how it is. We are like professional decision makers. Something's off in the culture. Maybe it's a really unusual situation that you've never dealt with before. So you don't have the data to support it. And so you really have to go, okay, really what's aligning here? What is the cost to me of this thing? Your values are being compromised, or the values of the organization are being compromised, or sometimes you will get a gut feel that something's just not quite right if people are masking issues. So that could be a team member who is compensating either for, and I classify it as 4 different things in my clinical business, right? And 2 of those you can work with, 2 of them you can't. So if they don't care or they're not competent, you can't work with that. If they don't know, but they're actually coachable, or if it's a confidence issue and they just don't feel safe to come to you or come to their other mentor, of course you can work with those things, and you need to work with them and provide a culture that encourages feedback, that encourages safety, etc., etc. But it is important to trust your gut as a leader or as an owner and look for the data around it, because we can actually make accurate decisions quickly using our gut because we have that background. So what might look like a flash decision to other people is born out of the result of thousands and thousands of experiences, all the things that we've learned, all the things that have happened to us in our lives, and it can be something really powerful. So I encourage you not to ignore it when it comes up. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow for more from Endures. Bye.